Definitely make sure we talk about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want me to talk, or did that other guy?
Casey, we want more questions?
Oh,
okay. All right, go for it.
All right, so the question's on data validation. How do you guys collect usable and good data outside of everything you can collect besides just casting a wide net?
Oh, that's a good question.
That is a good question.
I'm going to write it down. Can you do that, Mark?
I'm taking notes.
Oh, are you? What are you?
Does anybody want to field that one now? That sounds like something we might not get to during
On the thing?
I'll take a stab at it. So my favorite way to collect information lately is from Google Forms. You can just set up a Google form and it'll drop it right into a spreadsheet, and then you can either, like we're showing a board game here, and so we're just having people fill it out after they play and answer a bunch of questions. And you can also link it on a website or text it to a friend and be like, hey, you played that game last night. What'd you think? Yeah, so I like doing that a lot lately.
I think as far as like informal methods of getting data from people, we have a Discord channel for anybody who plays our game, so they can just come in there and talk about it, and it's been great because they talk without us in it, so that's lets us know that like our community is engaged and excited about talking about things. And then also the Steam forums are a really, really good place to get data from people.
I'll jump in with one more. So on Steam specifically, we have our Ruby game. It's hooked to Google Analytics. And so that allows us to see, you know, not who people are, but where they're coming from and what part of the country. Mm-hmm. And also in Steam's dashboard on the back end, you can see just really cool information of like where they came from, which sites they came from, or whether they came from Twitter, you know, the Steam front page, all those things. And so that really helps us if we try something, like, hey, we're going to make an announcement on Twitter. We try to see if it actually creates a spike and if it's working, you know, or we'll know quickly if it's not working either. So, yeah.
Right. My question is, I'm more so into development of physical games like card games, board games, tabletop games. My question is, how do those differ from doing a startup company for, say, a video game company? What you'd rather be focusing on, and essentially how you could bring that to fruition?
Patrick, you want to talk about
that? So, good to see you. I'm in the middle of starting my first board game company, and so I can't speak to that with any giant degree of expertise. I think from a business standpoint, the formation is going to be very similar. The process is similar. You still need accountants, bookkeeping, legal, finance, all the usual business infrastructure stuff. And then I suspect there's going to be like a whole world of hurt when I start trying to figure out distribution and manufacturing and cost of goods and things like that. So that's my preview answer.
As well as timing on that. You know, what we're learning on the board game side at Rooster Teeth is, you know, we didn't anticipate, like, wow, we're done with this idea, we're ready to, like, get it out. Oh, wow, it takes 6 months for us to create all the things and manufacture them and have them come back. And so you have to really factor in that part of it, too. So.
Yeah, it takes a long time for ships to get from China to...
Slow boat from China.
Where would you even start in making a game company?
That's something we're going to cover during the main panel.
Yeah.
I was curious, how often do you guys come up with game ideas you think are going to be really great? And then how often do those game ideas actually get turned into games? Like, what's the ratio usually?
Oh, Lord.
Like all 100 to 1? Never.
Yeah.
Are they ones you think will succeed?
List.
Sorry?
Are they the ones, like, do you think these ones are like, oh, this is going to be the next big game, and then they don't work? Or is it just like, oh, that could work?
Oh, well, we always think they're going to be the next big thing. We're writing them down. It's like, oh, this one. They're going to love it.
It's like it funnels down to, like, you have 1,000 ideas in the shower.
Mm-hmm.
And then 1% of those you actually even get started. And then
1% of those.
1% of those actually goes anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks.
Hi, so I'm a little bit more on the development side, and This is actually a question for any developer in the audience or anyone, because I'm pretty lost here. So imagine you have like a sort of Magic the Gathering sort of game where you have a deck of cards and each has a pretty unique effect. Is there a good way to handle that sort of system besides just having like a giant switch statement of just all the different card names? Database? Can that like each have a function or? Okay, awesome.
Come talk to me after the panel.
Perfect. Thank you. Awesome. Thank you very much.
Inherited delegates. Yeah, I was wondering. I'm kind of more along the programming side of things. A couple ideas here and there in general, but how do you fill in the gaps of what you're not good at? Like, how do you gather people that are good at doing other things? I guess from your friends are a good start, I'm sure, but how do you go beyond that to necessarily when you're first starting?
Meetups.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a programmer and I can't do art or anything. So when we did Battle Sloths, it was more like a collaboration. Like I wasn't trying to sell like some like vision that I had. We were building the game together, and that made it so that we had an artist and musicians and stuff like that. We're just like, oh, we're making this game together, and then I made it easier to fill those gaps because it was like a collaboration instead of just barking orders.
Right. Cool. Thanks. Yeah.
I watch a lot of YouTube.
If you just came in, we have not started. You aren't late. Feel free to come sit down. You're not going to interrupt anybody.
A bit of a strange predicament. I've actually splintered off from a bigger, more ambitious project, and 4 of the guys from that are in a new studio. Just curious, how do we get more manpower with the best cost efficiency ratio? Because we have just 4 people.
I think one of the best gauges for how good your idea is how many people you can recruit to work on it with you. So like we all love our ideas, right? Like,
right.
There's a game we really want to make. It's going to be the best game ever. And we tell all of our friends about it. And they're like, yeah, sure, whatever. But like the board game that I'm working on, it started because I was hanging out with my friends who I played board games with. And I was like, hey, I had this dream. And we were playing this game. And it was about spaceships. It had just like a ton of dice. We were like throwing dice at each other across the table. And my buddy Jeff was like, we have to make that right now. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And so like that was just like the moment of inception where other people got excited, and then I got excited because other people were excited. So I would say tell your idea to as many people as you can stand, and yeah, if they get excited about it, rope them in.
Thank you.
I also think that there's nothing wrong with kind of the opposite of that, which is what Garrett and I did with Black Ice, which is it's the 2 of us, and then we hire a couple of contractors. And so working backwards, saying like, how can we make our game simpler, still fun, still awesome, but work with how many people we have. And that really worked to our benefit. A lot of people like the simplistic art style of our game and things like that. So.
Hi. So, marketing, how do?
Wow. I think that's something we'll probably cover during the main panel.
Yeah? Okay.
Cool. Thank you.
How do you get the ideas for the games you have, and how do you verify that those ideas can be put into game and released to become success? And last question, most important one, how do you get those verified ideas onto a computer, make the game, and release it to the world?
Garrett?
It's a lot harder to stop the ideas.
Kind of mirrors what you said,
Is there any advice you know now that you would have given yourself prior to starting your game company?
Start sooner.
I would say just keep on working. So like whatever you contribute, whatever you work towards, you'll get somewhere. So if you're sitting on your ass not doing anything, nothing will happen. But everything I've contributed and made has led to something else. So just keep on working and discover ideas, do game jams. All that stuff's going to lead to something. So just work.
All right, cool. Thank you.
But I would also say make sure you prioritize your own health. And, if you're feeling bad or you're, got a headache or, I don't know, just go for a walk and stretch and all that stuff and don't, work yourself into an early grave.
Thank you.
Hi. I'm more in the development side of things and everything. And I was wondering, when you start putting a game together and whatnot, and you're looking at a potential fan base and whatnot, how do you balance between building a game that you would enjoy playing versus a game that you know will be marketed well?
think you have to make something that you're gonna like. You really have to play it over and over again, and if you get bored of it very quickly, then everyone else is going to as well.
I think you have to always err on the side of something that you would enjoy. Maybe you can make small concessions here and there, but if it's something that you love, it's going to show through in your work. There's no substitute for that.
Yeah, I would also think about the ideal person that you would love to love the game. Like I made a kids game at Disney, and for me that was like, I want my kids to love this game, and so I was getting enjoyment from that by thinking about them and playing it with them and having that in mind. So it wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna make this game, it's gonna make money, and it's a dumb idea and people buy it are dumb. I was like, no, like I was really passionate about the people and the reasons that I was making the game for.
Thank you.
It's definitely easier to sell a game that you think is good.
This is kind of for everyone. Where did you go to school and what degrees do you hold?
Yeah, I'll start. I went to the University of Tennessee. I've got a bachelor's degree in computer science. And then I went to Southern Methodist University at the Guildhall. I have a master's in interactive technology, which is just fancy way of saying making games.
I went to LSU, and I studied graphic design. I originally got into advertising, and then found my way into games. But then after that, I got a second degree in animation. So
I went to UT for film and then switched to computer science.
I went to A&M Corpus Christi and got a degree in English. I used to be a high school English teacher, and I'm not anymore.
I went to UT Austin, and I got a computer engineering bachelor's degree, and there was enough computer science in there that it helped.
I went to Millersville University in Pennsylvania, and I have a computer science degree and a philosophy degree.
I spent 10 years in the Army as a scout helicopter pilot, and then went to upstate New York, State University of New York, for a bachelor's of computer science.
I went to the Art Institute of Phoenix for game art and design. I would not recommend it unless you like to burn money.
Hello. How long do you guys usually spend working on the mechanics of your games? Not just coming up with the ideas, but the actual programming and development, just the core mechanics.
That varies drastically from game to game. Well, how about this? Let's rephrase the question. As a percentage of the entire development cycle, how long do you spend working on core mechanics?
Wow. So we have a game called To the Top. It's a VR climbing platforming game. It's nothing like you've ever played before. So we really wanted to make sure that core mechanic was really good so we could build the whole game out of it. So we spent like a weekend just figuring it out and seeing if it worked, and it did work. But we spent about a year tuning it so it's as great as possible. So like you have full movement, 95% of the people can play it and feel super fine. So it was a lot of work just over the course of a year, but we're very confident after like 4 or 5 days. So it definitely varies, and you're always changing.
Yeah, it doesn't take long when you to get the initial mechanic and be like, okay, this is the fun part. But it takes a lot longer to iterate on that and make sure that it's polished and works for everything that you want it to do in the game.
Yeah, same thing. Like we did the Battle Slavs was originally a game jam, and we did that in like a few days. But when we get new features, we usually prototype it in like a day or two, and then we art it up. But we're always tuning it and trying to make things better and better.
Yeah, games are never done; they're just shipped.
Correct. All right, thank you.
Hey guys, so I think I'd just like to share with you and the audience the wisdom of Kid Rock. Because I think it's relevant to some of the questions here. If it looks good, you'll see it. If it sounds good, you'll hear it. If it's marketed right, you'll buy it. But if it is good, you'll feel it.
Okay. All right.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Kid, by way of John.
Voice of our generation.
Rest in peace, Kid Rock.
I don't know if you've already been asked this, but everyone tells us we have to network to get into the games industry. I've just finished uni on a games course, and I'm trying to network, but like, what are your top tips on just trying to break through?
Like break through into a network?
Yeah, into the games, just industry in general.
Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you.
Kid Rock will let you know.
Because all people tell me is network, but then they don't really say what networking is. I know I need to like meet people, but what do you talk about? Like, do you have any tips at all?
Yeah, it's making friends mostly, and
Yeah.
try to do things for people so that you're useful and they want you around, and definitely have business cards.
So,
Oh no, I've got that.
yeah, one way to do that is game jams. Yeah, go to the game jams, and you'll meet lots of people there. You'll make lots of cool stuff and figure out what it is that each other know, and then they'll start contacting you. Hey, I need help on this thing. Can you help me out with that or whatever? That's actually a really good way to do it.
Yeah, meetups are another great way. I'm not sure if you're from Austin, but there's lots of different
No, I'm
meetups.
from England.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, a little bit out of the way.
Awesome. Well, welcome to Austin.
Thank you.
There's lots of great meetups, everything from VR to indie to like engine-specific Unity or Unreal. There's all these different flavors of meetups, and you can meet people that are into the same things you're into, and then you find out, hey, well, where do you work? Is there any opportunities there? Well, I do I do computers. I do coding, or I do art, and that's just how you find out where those opportunities are. Because sometimes they're not listed,
Yeah, we have a lot of industry-based ones in the UK. I'm always like, you must be part of a company, but as a student trying to get in, it's like, grey line kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing that helps is living in a hub. Yeah. Game developers. We all live in Austin, and we would not have many of the networking opportunities that we have if we didn't live here. Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's drastic advice to go.
Oh no, yeah, I'm from Sheffield, where Sumo Digital is, with a Crackdown 3 at Snake Pass, etc. So we got contacts with them, but they mostly look for coders, and I'm an artist. So yeah, but thank you for the great tips.
Yeah.
Thanks.
This is another one. I don't know if it's been asked yet, but how do you sort of like end the brainstorming phase? Like, okay, we're done just coming up with ideas. We need to just sort of stop. Like, this is very fun. We need to just stop and just focus on the few ideas that are like that we're going to be actually able to develop, sort of thing. Like, just how do you know when to end that phase of development?
It's very hard. That's the easiest answer. It's really hard. It takes lots of discipline. And games are always an evolution process. Like you're going to continue to tweak things. But one way we're doing it actually internally at Rooster Teeth is we're thinking about when do we want to launch this game. Well, we know we need to stop with prototyping and ideas and all that at this date in order to meet our deadlines. So that's one way to do it. You just kind of know, okay, we've prototyped for as long as we can. Now we're going to have the next 6 to 8 months or 12 months, whatever it is, to finish the game. So that's.
I think another thing is putting the game in front of new players constantly and seeing their reactions to the game is going to make you really focus in on the things that are actually important and good. And I think once you do that, if you do that a lot, it's just going to happen automatically. You're going to understand what your game is based on people's reactions.
Yeah, to his point, you might have 5 other features planned, but then you realize I don't really need it, So I think we're good.
All right, thank you.
Okay, maybe we'll do one more if there's another person, and then we'll start the true panel.
You guys kind of already answered it, but how'd you get your start in what you love to do? Especially you, because we went to the same school. Yeah. So, how'd you?
So actually, I have a unique way I got my job. So I graduated during the recession, so there was half the game studios closed, and it was not looking good. So I relied on my art skills. I did 3D modeling, I did toys, and then I ended up doing a pitch for this kid's toy that wanted to do an MMO. And then that actually led me to going to the Philippines to help lead a game dev studio. So I just found whatever opportunity there was and then followed up with that. And I moved, on the other side of the planet, and then finally got back and doing the stuff I want to do now. But it takes a while, and you just have to find the opportunities around you.
Everybody's going to have a chance to introduce themselves, and I think probably we'll end up covering that as we go. But also, there was a panel yesterday morning, and I think you can watch them all online, that is what to do after you have graduated from a game school. So checking that out, if you weren't there in person yesterday, you can watch it online, and there's a lot of good advice in that panel. Okay, so we are officially starting now. That was the pre-Q&A that we did, just because there was so many people here early, might as well get some extra information out there. So welcome to the How to Start a Game Company panel. Thank you for coming, and
especially thank you to these panelists for coming. Many of them have abandoned their booths downstairs to come be on this panel. So it's a big sacrifice. So starting your own game company is the dream for many people. You get to make the games you want, and nobody tells you otherwise. That's exactly how it works, right, guys?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So starting your own company actually takes many different shapes and forms. You know, it doesn't mean that that's what you're going to do full time necessarily. You can start your own company and have another full-time job, and it's just something you do part-time, or you may do contract work and simultaneously have your own company. Or maybe it's your full-time thing and you're working off of your savings, you've gotten money from investors. There's a lot of different forms of starting your own game company. And it's not just, you can have a game company that the purpose of it is not actually to make games. You could be making middleware. You could be providing services to other game companies. So there's lots of different versions of this. And we're going to touch on some of those today. One theme that I hope you're going to hear about a lot is it's really hard to do. It's not, you're not going to probably succeed with your first game company. So there's a saying, the master has failed more times than the beginner has even tried. So I think, in the future, keep that in mind when your dreams are getting like a little out of scope.
Is that Kid Rock or?
Yeah, that's Kid Rock. That's. Yeah. So use this panel to kind of learn from our successes, but also our failures. So we're going to start by introducing ourselves. I'll introduce myself first. My name is Casey Donnellan. Currently, I am the lead designer and also an engineer at Rooster Teeth Games. So that's my full-time job. Before that, and even during that, I created my own company called Tecton Industries, LLC, to publish this game called Blue Marble. It's an educational game. It wasn't a huge success. I did manage to get it on the front page of Imager one day, which was really exciting. And I made a little bit of money from that. It's still on the App Store. It's free now. I made it free, and since then about 50,000 people have downloaded it. It's a fun little game about habitable zones of planets. So I learned a lot from that project, and it wasn't a huge success, but I'm really glad I did it. So, Garrett and Christine.
Yeah. Hi. I'm Christine.
Yeah, I'm Garrett Cooper, Super Duper Garrett Cooper. Men of Game Dev, July 2017.
Mr. July, if you have the Men of Game Dev calendar.
I should have put that picture up. That's,
oh my gosh.
Why didn't I think of that?
I'm not wearing enough clothes.
That's the point.
That's your opinion.
We co-own the Super Duper Game Company, and we've got one game, our baby, Black Ice. Anything else?
I still have a day job. That's important.
Yes, so that's definitely a different side of game development for us.
Dan Dunham and Richard Mady.
Hi, I'm Dan Dunham.
Richard.
And I actually also still have a day job. I work for Panic Button Games. We do a lot of console games, ports, co-development, stuff like that. And I also co-own Electric Hat Games with Richard, and we just made a game called To the Top for VR. It's a platforming game.
You can play it downstairs, super fun. Check it out. And then I also made a game called Mr. President that you might have saw on Achievement Hunter. Some people have seen it, I guess. That's cool. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah, Richard is Game Developer X. This is the public unveiling.
Dun, dun, dun. Right under the table.
Philip Johnson.
Nice. I like the high five.
Yeah, yours has a GIF.
Oh.
Extra special. I'm Philip Johnson. I'm Philip Johnson. I'm the creative director, founder, lead engineer of Invisible Collective, creator of a game called Battle Sloths, which is to distinguish of being the first game under the Rooster Teeth Games brand. So we're downstairs. I don't have a day job at the moment, but we'll see what happens.
Michael Hadman.
Hey guys. Well, currently, I guess I'm the head of Rooster Teeth Games, helping build. We built Ruby Golden Clips was our first game. We just published Battle Sloss, which we're excited about, and we're working on something new. I've been in the biz for a long time, probably 23 years, probably, which is older than most of you here, or some. But got started actually working on the original Duke Nukem. So there you go. That ages me. And we left to start a company called Ritual, and I've started several companies since then. Just keep trying and keep trying, you know. So yeah.
Is it true that Sin and Awesome Eats are in the same fictional universe?
Very true. Yes.
All right, Patrick Curry.
Hey guys, I'm Patrick Curry. As I mentioned, I'm working on a board game, which we're showing downstairs in the Mothership Games booth. And I'm also starting another company that does virtual reality and augmented reality software. Like Michael, I've started a bunch of companies, a bunch of them with Michael, actually. We can't help ourselves. And I've spent most of my career as a game developer. I worked on a bunch of what I like to call cult classic video games, aka flops, like Stubbs the Zombie, John Woo's Stranglehold, and Disney's Guilty Party.
Okay, so now that everybody's introduced themselves, let's start. So, why do you start your own game company? You know, is it just because you have a great idea, you just got to turn it into a game? Is it because there's an opportunity in the market that you've seen that you want to try to capitalize on? Is it because you have a great group of people that you want to work with to make something? And it doesn't matter what it is, you just have the people. Or are there other reasons? So, whoever wants to start talking.
So for me, it's all about self-expression. I worked with a couple of other studios, and I always have kind of a core vision of what I want to bring to the players and how it plays out and all that other good stuff. And sometimes when you work with a bigger company, the road from idea to actually getting to public can almost be impossible. We worked at King's Isle that did Wizard 101, Pirate 101, and they actually made two very successful MMOs, but they had a very, very hard transition to mobile because of management and the idea process of the developers to actually coming to market. So I spent like a year like making a game going nowhere, and it was like nothing was going to happen. So I knew that at that time I wanted to take my ideas and go to the market myself and make it possible. So we gathered people from King's Isle. We knew they were very capable, and we made to the top with them with a very, very small budget. So for me, it was all about self-expression and getting those ideas to the public as how I wanted to do it.
So that brings up the other reason why to make a game company is because you do have a group of people, and you need some way to officially make that group recognized by the government. So that's another reason to make a game company.
But yeah, I mean, there's also a thing where, like, if you work for a bigger company, you want to like pitch your game. Like, I used to work for Ubisoft, and they just, you would just see projects just get turned down all the time. So if you are wanting to take risk and you have people that are willing to go there with you and make the game, then just start your own thing. If you're allowed to do it.
What do you mean if you're allowed to do it?
Some game studios do not allow you to have your own projects at home. So if they don't let you do that, then you have to decide if you're going to leave or figure out some sort of deal. I was fortunate that the companies that I used to work for, they didn't have that problem. But they also weren't going to approve it and like give me a budget and a team.
Yeah, to elaborate a little bit on having the government recognize you, you actually can't get your game onto a console without a company. So you need that.
Yeah. I think for me, what you said, you kind of covered it. And when you said, is it all these things? Is it the opportunity? Is it the idea? Is it the team? For me, that's what it's always been. It's either Patrick has had this crazy idea, like his dream of throwing dice at people or whatever, and I'm like, that's amazing, and then we tell it to our friends, and things just start. But you have to be willing to take that risk because it is kind of a big risk.
So do you need to have all of those things? Or?
You don't need to have them all, but I mean, I think if a good 3 out of those 5, is important to have. And like in these guys, they're all kind of doing it as side projects. I think that's a really smart thing to do in the beginning. Is just to make sure it's going to work before you really jump out there and do it.
So, Patrick, can you talk a little bit about like Suki and how that all got started? So I think that is a really interesting example of another reason why you might want to start a game company.
Sure. So we had a mobile game company that was making mobile games. We made games for Disney and made a game for Whole Foods, that Awesome Eats game. And that was an okay business. Companies would pay us to make games for them, and then we would release them with them. And they weren't as much our games, but the games we made together with these other companies. But in the process of doing that, we made software for ourselves that helped us make video games, just tools, things behind the scenes, like Visual Studio or Unreal or Photoshop are tools. We made some for our own, for ourselves that did other things to help us. And we realized that might actually be a business unto itself. And so we decided to make a new company that just made that software. And then we got to know the people who made Unity, the Unity game engine. How many of you guys have heard of Unity game engine? Oh, wow. Man, that's wild. Yeah, okay, so you guys know Unity. Yeah, Unity's super popular game development tool. Probably about 1/3 of all games these days are made using it. And Unity saw the value of the tools we had made, and they were like, yeah, we think lots of our users want these. And so they bought our tiny little company, and those tools became part of the larger Unity offering. And so that ended up working out for us. That was a good business deal, and a lot of fun to work for Unity and work with lots and lots of game developers making their games.
Well, tell them what it was. It was Cloud Build.
Oh, so yeah, the software we made became Unity Cloud Build, which is a cloud-based compiler for games, and it also does mobile apps. That's the main reason we made it, is that compiling iOS games is a pain, and so we made it a lot easier. Oh,
it's really, really good.
You're welcome.
So useful.
That's awesome. I'm happy to hear that. I'm also happy to hear it hasn't broken since I left. You're like, it's better. Man. Yeah, last eight months just, yeah. Cool, thank you.
So I'm going to circle back around to Garrett and Christine. So at what point did you decide to pull the trigger with Super Duper Game Company and make Black Ice and really make it a thing?
You want me to answer this?
Go for it.
It's kind of I'll shorten the story. We moved from Austin to California in 2013, and with no family, no friends, never been there. And so we were bored. It was about a month until we got our furniture from the shipping company.
And somebody wouldn't play Netrunner with me.
And I wouldn't play Netrunner with him. And he begged like every day, like, oh, play Netrunner, you're going to love it. It's so much fun and it's cyberpunk. And I was like, no. And so he decided to make a video game that was kind of like Netrunner, except he didn't know how to make video games. So he watched YouTube videos and taught himself. And then the game started to grow and grow and grow. And we decided to pull the trigger because I was tired of being ignored. And just like sitting there and watching him design this game and it growing and growing. And I was like, hey, why don't we do this together and like make it a thing? And so we did.
Yeah, and one thing that was important, we waited to form our LLC till after we left California, because in California you have to pay $800 a year regardless of how much money you make for your LLC.
And here in Texas it was a $300 one time. So yeah, and it was a bummer because we had a lot of opportunities while we were in California that we needed an LLC for, and we were really banking on coming back home someday, so we were like, no, we'll wait. But yeah.
Would anybody else like to share kind of like the origin story of like Battle Sloths or To the Top?
Yeah, so Battle Sloths was originally a game jam that I did at one of the companies I worked at. They had set it up so that you could like if you bring your own hardware in, you could like show a game that you did like outside of work or something, and then that way you got to keep the rights. And we figured like it would be smarter to do that. And we did, and we had a good game jam. And then, after that, it was like a month or two later, it was like, well, let's just form a company and get this out on Steam. And then eventually, like, we ended up securing a deal with Humble Bundle, where we ended up having the game come out as a Humble Original in March 2016. And then shortly after that, we started talking with the Rooster Teeth guys. So,
how many people were working for Invisible Collective back in the Humble Bundle days? And
so with the Game Jam was 5 people, and then after that, it was just one person. It was just me, kind of keeping the idea alive for like 6 or 7 months. And then when the Humble deal came around, that's kind of when Randy started coming into the picture. Randy, our executive producer, and then we kind of bubbled up to like 10 people. It was like 3 artists and another engineer, and we got Jason Graves to do a soundtrack. We had a rap song. We had, the Humble Bundle deal had more or less like legitimized the project to the point where we could attract developers to do it, because getting noticed is so hard. So like when you have this sort of thing that's going to lift you up, that is an easier way to like get people attracted to want to work on a project, because it would be more than just like some game that's just going to die in the Steam store. There's something that's going to get some sort of promotion around it.
At what point did you start working on Battle Sauce full time?
When I lost my job at Max Play. Or, sorry, when Max Play closed their doors and I didn't have a job no longer. I was like, okay, well, it's either I try to find another gig and work on Battle Sauce at the same time, or just go independent and try to see if that works out.
So it wasn't even like your choice completely to do it?
No, it was not. I mean, it was my choice to not seek out a full-time position.
Okay. Any more origin stories? Ritual, Fun Machine?
Yeah. Well, it seems like for mine, they're always about the opportunity. When we were working on Duke Nukem, we went to E3, a bunch of 20-year-old snot-nosed kids, and we met another publisher, and they said, hey, we want the Duke Nukem team, come work for us. And then we met another publisher, and they told us the same thing, and we're like, oh my gosh, like we're kind of wanted right now. So we got together, me and these other 4 guys, and we decided, well, maybe we have something here. Maybe instead of signing with these other people, maybe we just go for it and try to do our own thing. And that actually worked out. We were lucky enough, I went to college with one of the guys who started id, and he gave us our big break, which was we did the first mission pack for Quake, and that was like dream scenario, Yeah. So that's how that all got started. But then in other ones, like when we started Fun Machine, it was about the opportunity in mobile, which we were like, oh, there's gold in those hills, and so we were like, let's do this mobile thing, and we try to be smart about it. We're like, well, let's not just do what everybody else is doing. Let's try to work with big brands to maybe, try to make cool games that we think are fun, like the Whole Foods game. And it was also for us just personally, we believe in what Whole Foods is all about. And we had been working at Disney before that, and so then we ended up working on some other Disney things. So for me, it just came down to the opportunity, and how if I felt like it was worth the big risk to do it, But I always try to, at least Patrick and I always try to have another finger in a different pie, so in case plan A goes down, we have plan B or plan C.
Goes down.
Because we've done this enough now where we realize that, the best intentions, they just don't always work out. So just be ready, and have thick skin, because it's not always going to work out, But try again, and eventually you'll get there,
So do you think it's safe to say that it was because you were like already renowned developers that you had the opportunity to create Ritual? You were the Duke Nukem team.
Yeah, I think so. And there is something to be said for that. Like if you wanted to get into game development, like the girl was asking, how do I get in? Find a way to get in. Like all these people in this panel, they were already in the games industry, I think, before they realized how to work with a studio, how to work with a team, how all this stuff works. And then it was a matter of, okay, well, I think we can do this, So yeah, I would encourage everyone, if you can, to try to get a job in a game studio to pay your bills, and then work on your passion project at night until you feel like eventually, hey, maybe this is something. Maybe we need to do this full time.
So, when do you know that the time is right to make the jump?
Don't ask me.
When you don't have a job.
Well, there's some point where it becomes required, right?
Right.
Like, for example, okay, well, I want to put this game on a console. Well, now I have to have at least an LLC to be able to do that. The other situation arises is if you already are selling a game and you have other people that have helped you work on that game, you need to legitimize that partnership somehow, and that means making some kind of business entity to do that. So there's a certain point where it's just like it's required. It's not just hey, I feel like this is the time to make a business. You might get to the point where it's, hey, this is the time we have to make a business. So, yeah.
I think a pattern that we've seen, and Michael kind of touched on this, is that when people are offering you money to do it, then that's a really good sign you should do it. Now, it doesn't mean that you should take their money, but it's a good sign that there's a moment. Like when we were thinking about our tools that eventually became Cloud Build, we had friends who had other developers who were like, we will give you money to use these. We're like, oh, maybe there's something here. Or when we were talking to a friend at Whole Foods, and he was like, man, you guys make Disney games? You should really make a game for us. We're like, maybe we should. And so just being able to listen and hear, hey, other people are interested in this, other people are excited about this. Maybe it's not the thing that's like number one on your agenda next, but when you start hearing that enough, you're like, okay, there's something here, there's some momentum here, there's some interest here, it's worth going for.
Have you ever backed away from an opportunity because you said, okay, this isn't going to work, it's not the right time?
Yeah.
Yes.
How did you know?
Oh, gut, soul searching.
Yeah, or that networking thing again. A lot of times, we rely on our friends that are in the business, like, hey, what do you think about this company, or what do you think about this guy? And, one of the things I tell everybody that's in the game industry, just play nice and do good work, because eventually you never know when someone is going to be your boss one day. It's happened to us, like he's been my boss, I've been his boss. Philip will probably be my boss one day, but it just happens,
What about if it's not somebody else saying, hey, come work for me, come work with me? What if it's your own idea? And, maybe there's like a kernel of doubt. It's like maybe this isn't going to work out.
There's always a kernel of doubt. Like, yeah. Until you get it out there and people are playing it and you start seeing reviews and stuff like that, you're always like, I hope this is good, because we spent a lot of time and money on it. Yeah.
Have you ever let that kernel of doubt stop you from going all in on a game concept or an idea for a company?
For me personally, with game concepts, the thing that makes me stop is scope. Like, I just realized I've gone way out of scope, and then I just have to do something different.
It's been forced upon me at big studios that I've been at, where sometimes we've worked 2.5 years on a project that we put our heart and soul into, and somewhere higher up they go, it's just not the right time or not the right game, and then they just shut it down. And me as an artist, it was really hard because I spent 2.5 years trying to build a portfolio, and they said, oh, and by the way, you can't use any of that, so that's really hard.
Yeah. Battleslost is our first game, or my first game. I worked at AAA and stuff, but we worked on like a little tiny part of the game, but this is the first one I've ever done from scratch. So, I don't know, we have like a cache of like other ideas that'd be cool, but as far as that, it's really just about whether we have time to do it. Other than like not really like a matter of like having doubt, just going to end it early or whatever.
Yeah, I've personally started, I don't know, half a dozen different game prototypes and taken them to some beginning level of like completion before realizing like this doesn't work. I got to go back to the drawing board on this. So I think you can't kid yourself sometimes that like your every idea is like golden, because I have ideas all the time and most of them are terrible. Oh no, we lost the presentation.
Now, speaking of terrible ideas, I think it's worth it it's valuable to explore those rabbit holes a little bit. It does a couple things that helps you learn what's good and what's not, but it also helps you expand your skills and makes you better at doing the thing that you're trying to do. And that's super important because you're always going to have ideas. And it turns out that ideas by themselves are not particularly useful, but being able to do something with the ideas, that's the really useful part.
Yeah, the execution part is definitely the biggest part. Something that we've been wanting to do at Rooster Teeth Games, we just haven't had the time, but it's game jams. I mean, that's where the time is to spend 48 hours on just a simple idea, crank it out, see how much you can get done, and find out there's a little kernel of something there.
Yeah, I'll just talk to that too. With Mr. President, I did a game jam for that. We did it over a weekend. It was for Let Him Dare. It's an online game jam. I'd highly recommend it. You get great critiques. But it also puts it out in the wild, which was nice. So we did a prototype. There's no Ronald Rump. It wasn't really that political. It was all based on the Whitney Houston movie, The Bodyguard, for the most part. And then what I saw was that we had 2 YouTubers. One was from Germany, one was from France, and they both got 5 million views from that one video. So I knew there was a kernel something there of gameplay that was pure gameplay. They didn't even, there's no language, you know. Their core audience didn't know English. But I knew it was fun, ridiculous, and something I could like build off of pretty easily that was just on the surface level. So that really inspired me to run with it, and obviously when it came out, a lot of YouTubers got on board with that as well.
But that would have never happened if you hadn't had it out there for the public to see it, even in that very early form.
Exactly, because it's a stupid-ass game, but it's funny, and you know, it's something different. It's not, it's not a platform. It's not a genre. It's not any of these one things. It was this, idea that unless I saw what the public reception was, I would have never done. So it was really awesome to see.
So you might not know that you've got lightning in a bottle unless
you just release it and see what happens.
Yeah, same thing happened with Octodad. That was a student game up at DePaul in Chicago where I taught. And they released it for the IGF, and it just took off, and people loved it, and it was ridiculous. If you don't know Octodad, it's the story of a normal, everyday suburban dad trying to raise his family and do chores who's secretly an octopus. And it took off, and that motivated them to form a company and make a whole game, and now it's out on every platform in the world. And yeah, if they hadn't shared it in a public contest, they would have never known. It would have been just another student final that went into a desk drawer somewhere.
Okay, let's move on to the next big topic, which is money. Money is pretty important in the game industry. Maybe not the most important thing, but it's pretty close. You need money to live, I hear.
Are you a ghost?
We'll talk about that after the panel. There's different ways you can get money as a game developer. You could save your own money for a long time and then live off of that while you're building the game. You can go try to get funded by someone else. You can make a Kickstarter or a GoFundMe or things of that ilk. You can work on your thing part-time while you work contracts, or you can have a full-time job and really work part-time on your game. So there's a lot of different ways to do it. Can you guys talk a little bit about your experiences with that and like how you can balance that?
I was going to say, I think a really big factor in there is what are your obligations? So for me, I have a family, kids, that sort of thing. And so like I didn't really have the flexibility to take a huge risk and just stop working and then, work full-time on the game. So I stayed working full-time at Panic Button while working on the game. So I have a really great opportunity because Panic Button allowed me to work on the game instead of other larger studios that would not allow that sort of thing. But my response there is don't quit your day job if you don't have to.
Yeah, and I actually ran the gamut of different things you could do independently. So what actually inspired me was I did a workshop item for Rust. I made a pair of pants. It took me a day. Seriously, it took me a day. And then I made 3 months' salary off of that one day of work. And I was like, well, once you actually see that your work is value and you can make revenue off of it, it should inspire you to go off and do your own thing and see what your true art can bring value to other people and enjoyment and stuff like that. So that was kind of the gamut of whatever you want to do. There's so many options now that you don't need to start like a big official company and hire people. You can make a pair of pants and make a bunch of money. You could make some tools for other people. There's so many things that are out there, and it's way more accessible now. I did Greenlight. Mr. President was Greenlit. That's gone now. But it's a lot easier now to get on Steam. So there's it's only going to get easier. So just look for those options and then pursue those, because more and more are just going to fall at your feet. So I would say just look at what's out there, and then that will generate revenue so you can actually go off and do other things. So you don't need to get venture capitalists and all this other stuff, because we funded our projects because we worked with friends, and off of our own sweat equity. So it's pretty awesome when you could do that.
Yeah, so like it was mostly a part-time job for me. Battle Sauce was something I worked on at night until the company I worked for was gone, and then it was kind of like, well, am I going to get another job, or am I just going to like kind of roll the dice on this game? And basically, I decided to live off savings for a bit, and that's kind of where things are at now. But now the game's for sale, so we'll see what happens. But it's mostly like sweat equity. We're working with friends a lot of the time. And then also a lot of the tech we use is cheap or free. Unity Engine's free to work off of, and then tons of like really effective assets can make your game go a long way with just a little bit of money.
Phil, you want to describe what sweat equity means, just for people who may not understand?
Or swequity.
Swequity. It's basically like it's profit sharing model. Like you say, okay, we're going to sell the game, and then you're going to get this percentage of the profits.
Yeah, and don't ever be afraid to ask for money for your work. It's a big thing. Like when I started selling the game was when people were like, "Oh man, I can't believe this is free," and like people were making YouTube videos of it, and I was like, "Oh, I'm being dumb. I'm just giving people stuff for free." Yeah, so we started that way, and I've still got the day job, but the game money from the sales goes into paying artists to help me make the game better, and so it's an investment, and it helps.
And just to clarify, Black Ice is on early access, right?
Yes, it's early access, so that's been super helpful for getting feedback for the game, putting it in front of people, coming here to the convention. Black Ice is also on the show floor if you want to go check it out. Road 600, it's right by the Rooster Teeth booth.
Yeah.
How long has it been on early access for?
A really long time. I got through Steam Greenlight in 2014 in like June. So yeah, it's been going for a while. I mean, I've got a day job, so it definitely slows you down. But as long as you're upfront with people about it and be very clear about like, hey, I'm working on this, but it's going to take me a while, but people are understanding.
And we try to let the game speak for itself, just because early access has such the stigma tied to it, and people hear it's an early access game on Steam, and they're like, well, okay, I'm not buying that. And but we try to be as transparent as possible with our players and our community, and they can see, we're pushing out patches, we're pushing out updates, we're active with the community, and I think that helps tremendously when it comes to being in early access.
Yeah. Every time we do a convention that I've done before, I'm always terrified that people are going to be like, "Oh, I played this last year." Like it. But every single time, everyone has said, like, "I'm super excited to see all these changes, and I love all the stuff that you've done." So it's just an unfounded fear.
Yeah. So I mean, early access kind of allows the possibility to release your game really whenever you want, without having to go for years of dev time without getting paid anything. You can put it out on early access and start making money from it immediately to fund further development of the game. One thing I would point out with that is like Black Ice is like an ideal game to be on early access. It's kind of a sandbox game. If your game is like more of a story narrative kind of thing, like maybe that wouldn't be a great fit for early access. Right. So you might need to look in other places if you're trying to do something like that.
Yeah, ideally you want something that's very replayable.
Mm-hmm. Michael, Patrick, you guys, do you have any stories to share about like investment from third parties?
Well, I think the exciting thing right now is that there isn't only one model of making money in games. Like when I was first getting started, you got money from a publisher to make a game, and they would put out the game and keep most of the money, and that was that. Like that was the deal, and there weren't really a lot of exceptions to it. And now there's a million different ways to do it. There's no right or wrong way. There's app stores, there's free to play, there's Steam, Kickstarter, GoFundMe, all the sources you mentioned. As well as a richer investment community of people who have either made successful games and then used some of the money that they've made to invest in other games, or just traditional investors. And so,
how do you trick those people into giving you money?
I'm working on figuring that out right now. I'll let you know in a few months. I mean, okay. So first off, it's absolutely not about tricking people. I think the the best thing you could do when you're dealing with investors or customers or the public is just to be honest and be like, hey, these are my goals. And so the thing you want to do is try to line up your goals for yourself, your company, and your product with the audience that wants that, right? So if you're making a sandbox game that lines up well with Steam Early Access, you should do that. The stuff I'm trying to do in VR does not line up super well with Early Access, and so we're not going that route. But the good news is there's a ton of different routes. And to echo what Garrett said, you just can't be afraid to ask people for money or ask people for feedback about money. I think for some of us it's an uncomfortable topic, but you just have to get over that. And so, to reference back to the board game, we on our little survey form we ask, how much should we charge for this game? And then would you give it to us? Because we need to know, and we don't know what the right answer is yet. We've never done that before.
So if, let's say I've got a game idea and I'm trying to build a company and I don't have any money, but this idea is great. Should I be going to venture capitalists and saying, give me money? Is there a world where that works? A situation where I might be successful in doing that?
I think it's a really tough sell unless you're doing VR. Right now, I know that that's the one market that investors are putting money into, because they think it is the future. And I think we all do think that VR has a place in the future too. I think there's still going to be console games and PC games and all that, but I am excited about VR. But it's going to take a while for it to be mass market enough. But those guys are trying to get in now, so that when it is the next big thing, But I think it would be really difficult for, say, like Black Ice or a game we're doing, for us to go out and say, hey, investor, we need $250,000, unless it's just like a rich uncle or an angel investor or something like that, which they actually do. Like in Austin, there's an angel investment group, that you can go and pitch your ideas to. And, they're guys that they got a couple $100,000 and they're looking for good opportunities, and so that is possible. But I will say games are risky, and investors are generally shy on risky because you can't walk in and say, I'm going to give you the next #1 game. I'm going to make the next PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds. I've got it right here, and you just can't guarantee that. So, yeah, kind of back to the question of, like Patrick was saying, it used to be that the only way you could really get money, if you wanted to start a company, we're kind of talking about two different things here. We're talking about, how do I get my game out, and how do I find money to do that? And I think we've covered that, which is, get your friends together, work on it at nights, even if it takes you 4 years, whatever it is. But there's a whole other side of it when you're actually like at a point where you've worked at a studio, maybe you've made a game, you've shipped a game that you're like, we're going to actually do this now. Like, we're going to start a company, and I think that's a completely different scenario. And I would encourage you to, yes, maybe ask rich uncles for money or, use your savings and all that. But look for opportunities, A lot of times when I've kind of gone solo, it's been because somebody's like, I have a need, and I try to fill that need with what's happening where I know the market's going, So it's kind of two different things, I think. Just trying to get a game launched and out there, and seeing if it makes any money, and legitimately starting a company where you have employees and you've got payroll and all the things. It's a whole scale of
like a brick and mortar company.
Yeah. Like where you guys go to a studio and I don't even know if you should do that these days, although I think it is important for teams to work together. But I've seen teams that make it work somehow. I don't know how they do it. Even like the Battlesloss guys, they're a distributed team, so but it's a whole other scale, I think, when you're starting that brick and mortar.
There is one other avenue that doesn't get brought up very often, but media-based grants. So, for example, in the state of Texas, the Texas Film Commission actually has grant money that you can get for making media. It's mostly targeted towards film, but you can get money for making games from them. And I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, John would know more than I do, but Certain Affinity and Twisted Pixel have both taken advantage of those grants, haven't they?
Yeah, the last legislative session was not kind to it.
Sure.
Almost, I think, so it's questionable whether...
But those sorts of things might exist in other places as well. So that's another avenue to look towards, government-based grants that you might be able to take advantage of.
Yeah, to echo, I know there's very active grants in Canada and France for media and video games right now. Those are the ones I hear about from friends. But again, you just can't be afraid to ask people for sources of money. And, so anyone who's done it, you kind of have to be a little nosy and be like, hey, where'd you get that money? And it might be an uncomfortable topic, but if you do it politely and cordially, you can usually get an answer. And sometimes somebody will be like, all right, hey, come over here, we'll talk quietly in the corner, and I'll tell you what's really up.
Okay, so I want to move on to our next big broad topic. So you've probably heard terms like LLC, C Corp, S Corp, partnership, sole proprietorship, co-op. These are all different types of companies that all kind of serve different roles. So let's start with an LLC. Do I need to be an LLC? Like, in what situation should I try to form an LLC?
I personally recommend an LLC for any indie game developer or little crew of developers, just because, to be completely honest, it's the cheapest and it is the least amount of paperwork, and it tax-wise benefits you really well. It keeps the taxes really simple as compared to like an S Corp or a C Corp, which like that brings in investors and shareholders and all those sorts of things.
You have to have a board or something.
Yeah, and you have to have a board, and so that's, you're not really going to need that unless you're making a lot of money. And if you are, congratulations. Research S Corps and C Corps and such, but
Or pay someone to at that point.
yeah. So, but LLC is what we have, and it's amazing. I think it kind of does everything we need it to do. It gets us all the places we need to be, and it's easy.
Why would you choose that over a sole proprietorship?
Liability. So the LLC in liability is specifically for what the company is liable versus what you are personally liable for.
Right.
So when you form an LLC, that separates your personal finances from company finances. I mean, it's a very broad thing, so different businesses benefit differently, and video games may not benefit as much from the limited liability, but for example, if something happens and you get sued, they can only sue the company, they can't sue you personally, that sort of thing. And also it's super easy to set up an LLC. Like, you'll find lawyers and things that'll charge you $300-400 or whatever to file an LLC plus the filing fee, but really you can literally, at least in the state of Texas, go online, fill out a form, send them a fee, and then you'll get your EIN back within a couple of weeks. Like, it's no problem at all.
Yeah, and if that even sounds too intimidating, I can't recommend LegalZoom enough. We use LegalZoom to set up our LLC. They have 3 different like payment plans. The cheapest one is $148, which is just like they'll just file it for you and check the name to make sure, I have a whole thing about our company name, and then it goes up and up to where you'll get like an actual accountant that you can talk to, I think for 2 years and things like that. We're pretty lucky. One of our very good friends is a lawyer, so we just kind of talk to him whenever we need that kind of stuff. We didn't have to go through LegalZoom for that, but LegalZoom, they did everything for me, except for they don't do our taxes. I do that. So when we get to the point where I can pay someone to do our taxes for the company, that would be the best. But yeah.
So let's say I've got a great game idea. I was in the shower. That's all the ideas come in the shower. So it's the next big thing, and I run out, immediately start working on the next big game. At what point do I need to immediately form an LLC? Is then the time, or can I wait until I'm about to ship the game, or is it somewhere in between there?
I would say it depends on how many people you have working on the game.
Yeah.
If it's just you by yourself, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
If you have at least one other person working on the game with you, then it might be worth it to look into like a limited, like a limited partnership or something like that.
And I think it also has a lot to do with what you're trying to accomplish with the game. Like we said, if you're trying to be on console, they require you to have at least an LLC. Steam, I think at the time we were doing it, didn't require it.
They don't require an LLC,
but they really would love you to have one.
Yeah, they do require a bank account.
Yes.
And so in that case, it might be useful to have an LLC so your company
can have its own company account. Yeah. So yeah, it just depends on where you're planning to put the game and how quickly you're planning on doing that. We weren't thinking about consoles. That's kind of far off, so we didn't form the company until we were ready to start talking to console people.
So how long had you been working on it before you formed the LLC?
3 years.
Yeah, for me, the tipping point has always been before I spend money or make money, I want it to go through the corporation. because you don't want to mix your personal finances with the company finances, because it's a mess to unwind, and if you have business partners, it's confusing. And so, yeah, as soon as there's money involved, make a little company inexpensively, get a bank account for that company, run all the money through that bank account. Yeah.
Michael, anything to add?
Well, I was just going to say, it's important too for just the legal purposes of it, because I've been in situations where everybody loved each other in the beginning, and then 3 years later, people didn't love each other so much. So, it's good to have all that kind of established, and just for the legalities of it, like these guys are talking sweat equity and all that, like it's good to just have all that written down, somewhere, and have an LLC for, again, what's good about the LLC is it's this hybrid between a corporation and a partnership. There's all the liability protection, but it's good with the taxes, as these guys are saying, So yeah, I just think it's a good idea. As soon as, like he said, as soon as money starts to change hands, you should get official.
Okay, so we've got about 10 minutes left. I know we did some questions before the panel officially started.
Oh, wait, I wanted to say bad things about starting an LLC.
Oh, okay. Yeah, please.
Yeah, because it's not always a great idea.
Yeah, let's get real.
Two very big disadvantages to starting an LLC is if you have more than one person and that one person leaves, your LLC is dissolved. So be very, very careful who you go into business with. I went into business with my husband, and even then it was a little touch and go.
Getting married twice.
So be very, very careful of that. Also, with an LLC, there are no official roles. So there's no director, there's no manager, there's no anything like that. So when you are meeting with investors, that looks a little amateur hour to them, a little bush league. So what we did is we gave ourselves titles anyways. So I'm the CEO of our company. So then when I meet with people, I'm the CEO and co-owner of Super Duper Game Company. And it's not an official title, but it's in line with the things I do for our company. So be really mindful of that, because an LLC is the easiest thing you can do. You want to make yourself look as legitimate as possible.
I've got a question. I'll kick off the questions. What about forming a company in another state? Research online a little bit about this, and it's cheaper in other states.
Yeah. Super cheap here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know other states can also have legal advantages. Like a lot of companies are headquartered in Delaware for some reason.
Yep.
Yeah.
For taxes.
Yeah, Delaware is very business and tax friendly, and so there's actually a template for the form of a Delaware C corporation that investors want, and it's sort of what they deal in. And so if you show up with a company that you want to sell them a piece of, you want it to be the flavor they like. Like, you want to sell me ice cream, bring me Rocky Road. You want to sell a company to investors, bring them a Delaware C corporation.
Well, you should talk about when we switched from Fun Machine to Sugi, and you made it a C Corp, right?
Yeah, and you can change it. So it's much easier to go from an LLC, which I agree with everything everyone's saying here. An LLC is a fantastic starter company. And if things are going great and people want to invest, or you're just swimming in cash, it's relatively easy to change it into a C corporation. And this is all for the United States folks, of course. And in that case, a Delaware C corporation is a good way to do it. At that point, you probably want an attorney to help you. But it's much harder to go the other way around. And you can always mix and match these things. But I've learned the hard way that you want to stick with the flavors that people like and that they're used to dealing with, and you get fewer questions. It makes life a lot easier.
Okay, so we're going to go into questions now. If you asked a question beforehand and we didn't answer it, just feel free to stand up and ask it again. So I guess, Guardians, could you take this and questioners form a line?
Tyler doesn't like standing in lines.
Okay. Should I wait?
Yeah.
Wait
I'm
a
not going to
second.
answer your question later.
No? Okay. So, what are the reasons for forming more than one company instead of having everything under one roof? So, if like you have to spend money in order to create a company, why not just like keep it all in one?
That's a great question. It mostly has to do with who I'm in business with. So I'm working with one friend on the board game project and some other friends on a video game project and other people on the virtual reality project. And so they all have their own bank accounts and companies and keep it nice and tidy. And that way, if frankly, if anything goes wrong with one of them, we have to close one of them. We can do that easily and safely and not disrupt the other businesses.
It could also wind up being a requirement. So if it depends on what type of work you're doing. If you happen to be doing contracting work or co-dev, certain larger companies might require those things to be split apart. Yeah.
So I was at the Women's in Animation panel, and somebody asked the question, what was the project that you worked on that you really liked that didn't go? And the MC there said, before you answer that question, I want to remind you, if you don't want Rooster T to own your idea, then you do to not be specific. So my question is, how do you work for a gaming company and keep an idea your own that you can do later on?
It depends on the state where you've been employed. So California, for example, California is a really good example. They're actually a lot more leaning towards the employee. And so let's say you come up with an idea, you happen to be working in a studio, you're in California, as long as you're not using their equipment and you're not doing it on their time, they can't take it from you.
Right.
They could make a copy of your idea and get it to market before you, though. I mean, you can do that anywhere. But for example, Texas, I think Texas leans a little bit more towards the companies, and so if you have a non-compete with certain companies, they could, for example, take your work in Texas.
I think you do all right, right?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely want to look at the moonlighting policy for your particular company that you're working for.
Thank you. So I have a question. I've been working on this game since I was like 12. It's an idea that me and my old friend had when we were just playing in the backyard shooting at each other with Nerf guns. And I started working on it. I don't think he ever took it really all that far, but I started working on it. I started writing months and months and months of just background, lore, story, everything. And then I started to talk about it with some people and everything, and well, I'm always horrified that maybe because I haven't like registered it, I haven't like copyrighted it or anything like that, and I'm always horrified that either one day someone will either come up with that same idea, or even though it may be a slim chance, or may use the name of the game that I've already selected, or even worse, that one of the people that I've talked to before, especially the friend that I made the game with, will decide that they want to make it on their own, and because I haven't done anything to protect it, that they will make that game, and then I won't have anything to do with it. I won't be able to build an entire world that is just full of wonder and people can explore and enjoy. And I'm always so horrified of that.
I wouldn't be worried about that too much. The reason why is, once you start talking to more and more developers, you start to realize very quickly nobody has time to steal your idea. They're already all working on their own ideas. So, if you start pitching these ideas and you get feedback, I mean, that's what you want. You want the feedback. And the only way you're going to get that feedback is to get that information out there and find out, if the thing that you're making is as good as you actually think it is. But yeah, most developers don't have time to steal your idea because they're already working on their own stuff.
Thank you so much. Everything you've shared with me has just been so helpful, and I will remember this. Thank you all so much.
Well, before you leave.
You're welcome. One more thing. I think this applies to anyone who has ideas they like. Once you're getting serious about it and you think money could exchange hands, it's a good idea to start the trademark process with an attorney or LegalZoom to register the name with the government and say, hey, this is my name and no one else can have it. And we've both had several companies. We've had to change the names of the company because there's some other similarly named company. It's a real drag. So I'd say once you're really serious about it, start that process. And then if you feel like there's people who came up with things with you, you can always approach them and say, hey, you know what, I'm really serious about this, and I love that we came up with this idea together. Here's some money. Here's a couple $100. Thank you for all your help. I'm going to go finish it. And if you do that, then, hey, they're happy. They got paid, and, they're happy to see you go make something and, yeah, go do it.
Another thing is really cheap is just get the domain. If the name that you want, try to get it. Put a simple image on it, coming soon. It might be coming in 10 years from now, but that claims that basically shows that you own that domain. You own that name. It gives you a little bit of legal ground.
Great point.
Yeah. So in regards to legal entities, you talked about the variety of tax benefits. At what point did you guys stop managing that yourselves and hand it off to like an accountant or CPA?
I think that depends on how much money you have and how much money your game is making. The way we kind of operate our game is our goal was for the game to be self-sustained. So all the money that the game makes goes into making the game. So none of our money, personal money, goes into the game really, and none of the money that the game makes comes out into us. So that kind of limits whether or not we can hire an accountant and whether or not it's worth it. I do our taxes, business taxes, and so for the state of Texas, we have to do sales tax and franchise tax. The good news with franchise tax is you'll probably never have to do it because you have to make, I think in Texas, they change it every year, but I think this year it was $300,000 a quarter or something like that to file franchise tax. You still have to do the paperwork, but basically I just say, no, I don't owe you, and then I mail it off. And then,
Speaking of which, we need to do that.
Yeah, we do need to do that. Sorry, the deadline's soon. And then sales tax is the same thing. So I really think it's easy. It's easy to do it yourself. It's more of a time issue. If you feel like, time is money and you really need to focus on other things, then it might be worth it to invest in somebody else to do that for you.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about whether you need to hire a contractor as well, is whether you have the time for it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi. Most, if not all the time, whenever I start a project, I always start it not knowing completely how to do everything that I see it being. And I like that in a way because the next project I do, I'll know more. And so as a base, it starts off better. My question is, have y'all done that in the past? And if so, how dangerous was it, or how dangerous can it be to start something not knowing completely how to see to completion?
I don't think anybody at this table has ever started anything knowing completely how to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ever, and we probably never will.
It's always a risk.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Oh, you're good.
I was learning Unity while we were making battle sloths.
So yeah.
So was I.
Cool.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Just say go for it. Don't be afraid. Just keep moving forward.
YouTube tutorials.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
There's still a puzzle in my game that was the tutorial that I was doing on YouTube. Literally, I just started with that and built up.
Yeah.
I'd say that's one of the things I love the most about the game industry is it's constantly changing. The software's changing, everything's changing. The way we do things and new tools. So don't worry about knowing everything before you start. Obviously you need a good base and foundation, and you're doing the right thing. But don't think you have to know everything to get started. Just get started.
Awesome. Thank you.
You know everything about it. It's almost not worth doing at that point.
Fair.
I wanted to reiterate on a term I just learned today, the game mashup, I believe you referred to it. Where people meet up.
Game
and
jam?
The game jam.
Yeah.
Yes.
Game jam. Thank you. Close enough. I was just wondering how I would be able to find out more about those. I am a local here in Austin, so I'm not sure.
Facebook is a really good place to find. Whoever else was asking about meetups, Facebook is also a really great place. Just find your. There you go. Get it.
Thank you.
Get
Yeah.
it.
Meetup.com would be great. Depends on what area you're from.
Right here. In the
Okay,
middle.
yeah, this is a great place to be.
Blocks away.
Perfect.
It's a very, very supportive
pretty sure
indie
there's-
scene here.
I'm pretty sure there's an itch.io page that lists all the game jams ever.
I think so.
Yeah.
I do a couple of Google searches and you should be able to find plenty.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, a great resource here in Austin is the ATX Game Dev Cal.
Yes.
So Cat Musgrove maintains a calendar of every game developer friendly event in town, and there's usually 2 or 3 a week.
And she is diligent.
Yeah, so there's a Twitter account, there's a Facebook account, there's a Google Calendar. If you just look for Austin Game Dev Calendar, you'll find it.
Yeah.
And back on research, is there a...
We're out of time.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, but come talk to us afterwards. You know, I think probably some of us will be sticking around here.
Do we have to go outside so they
I think
can...
we're supposed to.
Okay.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.